Why do you think he's easy?
Because he's such a dynamic human.
Right.
Who's unafraid to just be. I don't think he holds back much.
So does that influence then how you're painting people in essence? Like if you're painting a subject easier, or is it sometimes more difficult to paint them?
I feel like it's easier to make any kind of picture related to somebody I know, because there's something about being comfortable, and there's something about not having your guard up, and there's something about just having the conversation between friends where it's fluid, and it's not like when I'm meeting folks or just interacting with someone, I don't necessarily have an agenda. I'm not trying to push an agenda on anything. I just want to experience the moment, and whatever comes from that experience is, well, this is what I can make a painting from, because I've known him for so long and spent so much time with him, and not lived with him, but pretty much lived with that guy, you know,
In the studio.
Yeah.
Right. When you guys were on Larkin.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
I remember that.
We shared a lot of studios together and a lot of times together. So it's, you know, he's not a reserved individual. So it's like, there's a lot to take from that, you know, like,
Gotcha.
That's exciting.
Nice.
You know?
So do you feel that way with other people maybe that you know well, but aren't as dynamic as him, right? So lots of people aren't. So then what do you...
I think it's more difficult for me to tap into maybe who that person is, because I'm not trying to push an idea of who I think that they are. I'm just waiting for them to
give you something else that you can key in on and build a narrative around in a illustrative way or something, right?
I spent a day with Bob Roberts like 2007 or 8, and I didn't know Bob that well. But I was like, hey man, like, I would love to make a painting of you. These are some of the things I'm doing. At the time I did a body of work of folks from Los Angeles, and it was right before I moved here from San Francisco, and I was coming down and just trying to document as many people as I could, but a lot of people I didn't know. And Bob's like, yeah, come and just hang out. So I spent the day, he was tattooing all day, so I photographed him doing that, and photos were cool, but I'm like, this isn't a painting about Bob yet. A few hours of being there, we shot photos of him in the front room where all that old historical flash is.
Right.
And he was getting a little frustrated with me because I kept wanting to take photos, which isn't something I necessarily do. And he had his dog there, and he was hugging his dog, and I think in his being done with it, he just gave me a pose that was quintessential Bob Roberts. I'm like, holy shit, this is it. It took all day to get to this point, but you gave me like a projection, I think, of, you know, when you think of Bob Roberts, like, it's his attitude.
So kind of signifying.
Yeah, he gave you this, you know, and it was just like, yeah.
That's great.
This is an attitude that's, I think, expressive of Bob's art and his personality, and
right,
you know, even in his stance, it was a strong stance.
Right.
It was just, it just clicked, and it doesn't have, you know, I don't know.
Right. So that's with human subjects, people you know or getting to know. What about pre that, when you're doing a lot of inanimate object paintings? Like, what inspired you to, I guess, first of all, paint, and secondly, like, where did you get inspiration to create the work you do? What kind of avenues do you seek or go down when you're thinking about, what do I want to do? How do I want to do it? How do I get there in a way that, works for me, that's authentic to me, and yet still, says something that feels...
I think initially everything that I've made in terms of painting has been an influence of something I've seen. I think most artists are in that.
Yeah.
We cannot deny our influences.
Absolutely.
And like when I first the first few paintings of tattooed portraits, because I feel like that's kind of, I've stumbled into something that gives me a range of subject that is never ending. You know, as a fine artist, I'm interested in the figure. I'm interested in small still lifes. I'm interested in interior paintings, exterior paintings, like the classic tropes that are
Right.
made within the context of realism.
Okay.
But I also like abstract art, and I like things that aren't real, and I like, you know, it's like, how do I take all of those influences and interject it into a picture? And it's changed over time, you know, and it's changed through the artists that I'm interested in the moment, or
Right. Right.
whatever that is. Like in the beginning, you were one of the first people that I met when I was started painting tattooed portraits, and you were a stranger. You had your shop on Market Street.
Right. Okay.
And I just knew of your work, and you and everybody at the shop was very generous and just said, yeah, whatever you want to do. I think I'd shown you maybe paintings of dolls that I was doing.
Yeah. I think so. Yeah.
Because that's what I had.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
But as a tattooed person, I had a connection to the subject.
Right.
And moving to San Francisco and becoming part of that community, and then learning to do it, it's like, how there's too many things to make pictures about. Holy fuck, this is
Right.
amazing.
How could you have enough time?
Yeah, it's crazy. I stumbled into something that I didn't force, you know, like the doll paintings. At the time I was teaching high school kids in the summer and college kids, and 9/11 happened, and I was watching a lot of Law and Order SVU and just different shows about, you know, things against kids. And I was making paintings that reflected that. And the connection was, you know, whatever my upbringing was to that subject, and then just wanting to express some kind of social commentary through an inanimate object, because I didn't want to use any individuals. That can get weird.
Yeah, right. That's a pretty tricky subject to breach with, right? Like child emotions and pain, and
I didn't have a connection to it, and
there's that too, right?
The connection to the images was making paintings that I thought had power to them, you know, in their subject. Where with tattooing, it's look, there's no end to the kind of pictures that could be made. It's I don't know. I wish I could live forever so I could just make a zillion paintings, but I know that's not a realistic goal. That's my influence right there. That library.
Right.
You know, it gives me, not that I go through it daily, but I go through those books often enough where I'm like, well, how did this person deal with that? Or whether it's color or composition or subject or whatever it is, lighting, like,
right.
It all gives me more fuel to like, oh.
So you revisit a lot of your early influences to stay inspired. Is that fair to say? Or
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
that's interesting.
And I think, you know, knowing enough friends in the art community and the tattoo community that are hyper productive keeps me on track and not losing focus in wanting to push myself.
Right. Yeah, I think some of that has been, I don't know if it's just me and, you know, cycles of our lives and, you know, ebbs and flows of creativity and drive and production. Mm-hmm. But I've found myself at times not going toward probably enough of the things that inspired me earlier, in fear of maybe it might stop some of my growth or something. If I was just kind of going back to the same well, I'm like, oh, this thing, and maybe it would spark some of the same, too much of the similar angle or, you know, trajectory, or I wanted to go into a different trajectory. But I found myself recently thinking about You know, if you look at those same things, it doesn't mean that you're going to do the same thing again unless you're not really working on yourself or trying to be creative and trying to find new solutions to challenges that you want to work on.
If you've grown as a human, like, how can that work be the same?
Right. Right.
And evolved as an artist, like.
Right. Like if you're working in earnest and authentically, then you're gonna change.
Totally.
Yeah.
Did I answer the question?
Was there a question? I wanted to talk to you about, and well, let's see. I hate it when I say stuff like that. So obviously, like, I don't know. It's dumb. I know. I just edited myself. It's damn it. I'd like to talk to you about commercial work, both as it pertains to your painting and to tattooing. Tattooing is very commercial, or if you want to call it commission. We're doing work that's, someone's coming to us, they're giving us ideas, they're giving us parameters, they're giving us subject matter, a lot of restraint, sometimes very little restraint.
Sure.
Either way, we still have the obligation to make the best tattoo for somebody, with them in mind, to give them something that we feel that they really want from us and is also successful as a tattoo, has the power and inspiration as much as we can muster. How do you navigate the space and the challenges between what that feels like for tattooing and what that feels like for painting?
I feel like for myself, it's very similar for both. I think because I'm so passionate about making my own pictures, when I'm doing commercial, I do a lot of commercial work.
We're talking about painting.
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot of commercial painting for illustrations for different kind of advertising clients, editorial, whatever it is.
Right.
And what I do enjoy with that is it's a set of parameters that they give you, and you make something in context to that with a time frame. Deadlines help us stay on task and be productive. What I also love about commercial work in terms of painting is it allows me to not worry about selling my own art, even though I do sell my own art. But because I have the opportunity to make money as an illustrator, it gives me so much freedom to make pictures.
You don't have this weight over here saying, well, you could make this, but hopefully this will sell.
Yeah.
How do you make this so it'll sell and not just some selfish experiment?
I think a lot of friends who make a living solely as fine artists fall into a trap or the necessity of having to make a living, so they continue to make similar pictures that they know their clients will buy.
Right.
And they might not necessarily push their art and their work as much because they need to eat.
Right.
For me as a tattooist, it is definitely, I've been tattooing 15 plus years.
Okay.
It's been a commercial job. Where I haven't, I do have clients that say do whatever you want, but that doesn't work for me.
Interesting. It doesn't really work for me either. Honestly, I'm like, you got to give me something.
Yeah.
Because you could pick something they don't want.
Yeah.
And then they might get it.
You spend all this time and energy on it, and
they might get it or they might not.
Yeah.
Right? And then you say, right? And it's the funny one of, yeah, but I didn't really want one of those. Well, you just told me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's nice to have a jumping off
something,
point.
Right?
Yeah.
I think I do that too because I want them to be happy. Like, I want to give them something they want. As for as selfish I can get in tattooing with the freedom that I'm given, I still want to make them excited, if they're open to it or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody wins if everybody's happy. Right? I don't know. I unfortunately, I think my tattooing hasn't evolved as much as it could have because I spend so much time and energy on these things.
Sure.
and it's what it is, and it's out of choice. I think I've improved over the years. Like, I'm trying to get better at it and
Right.
get feedback from my coworkers and do the best that I can every day that I'm doing it. It's different.
I mean, you're like Kiyosai and oils, man. You're like, there's a demon of painting. It's crazy.
Thanks, man.
Super impressive.
Thanks,
so the amount of work that you do is like
Thanks.
mind-boggling.
It's trying to find a balance, and if you want to tattoo 7 days a week, we kind of can't. I can't do that and
I can't either.
be as productive as I am with this.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, how could you? You'd run and run.
I'd have less
run off a
personal
cliff
life
in
and
some way.
I would have no hands at work.
Right, and then not including like what happened to your mind after a while.
Sure. Sure.
Kind of fatigue might be pretty severe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't feel as much as an artist when in my role as a tattooist than I do as a painter. I feel more like a fine artist as a painter than I do as a tattooer.
I think that's pretty natural, though. I mean, I think the definitions of each kind of set those apart in my brain.
Yeah.
What I would define them as. And then furthermore, like we talked about, when you're working with tattooing, there's just no getting around the commercial / commission aspect of them.
Mm-hmm.
And with this, it doesn't matter what you do. You can do anything you want.
Yeah.
Any day you want, anytime you want. It can be as...
And it can look however I want it to look.
Right, and it can be as successful or unsuccessful as you need it to be in that moment to get through that, whatever that is, right? And go on to the next one. Yeah, it's got its yeah.
There's a lot, I mean, you've done it. A lot of tattooers create high art with their tattooing. I'm not that guy. Sorry.
No, I mean, I think in a lot of ways too, honestly, there's something to be said for that. And I think in a good way. Because I think a lot of people, it's difficult to do.
Yeah.
If
you have to be focused on it.
Right. And if you can even do it in some ways, right? Like, I don't even know how you define that necessarily. But if I go toward that direction with my work and try to do it, I don't know if I'm successful with it, because what does that even mean? What does it look like in the tattoo? The idea of like a higher art or whatever. Is it just the same?
Henry talks a lot about the push.
Okay.
Where I think that's what a lot of our peers do, is they're pushing the art form. Whether it's in how they're composing something on the body, or I think a lot of it has to do with composition.
I think it's
and subject.
Super driven by composition.
And experimenting in a way. We're going to try this thing that you haven't seen before.
Right.
And I'm just not on that path because I don't have the mental energy to give it that.
Right. Well, that's okay.
I'm okay with it.
Good. Yeah, you should be.
I'm totally okay with it. I don't apologize to myself over it, even though I see all my peers doing it, and it's like, fuck. Doesn't necessarily bum me out because I love tattooing.
Right.
I'm just doing one aspect of it.
Right. Totally.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, I think no matter who you are, if you're Philip Liu or Ed Hardy, or if you're the gal that's been doing for a year in the most brutal street shop, we're still doing the same things in a lot of ways. It's still the same thing. You're practicing, you're sharing, and you're creating. It's I don't know. It's got so much of the same stuff. There's very little kind of drive between those two in a lot of ways. I think it's kind of all kind of same in the same little pool.
Then there's the exchange that you have with your client.
Right.
That lifelong exchange. Whether they enjoy the experience or not, they're going to, unless they remove the tattoo, like, they're living.
But even if they remove it,
it's still there, yeah.
Yeah, the whole thing, experience, the time, and all that, right? Yeah.
I think people remember their tattoo experience more than most experiences.
Yeah, we were talking about that on the way here, actually. We were talking about how so many people will purchase high-end expensive tattoos, but and that compromise maybe a large portion of their monthly income versus, spending a large portion of their monthly income on fine art. Like a lot of contemporary individuals and culture, they don't do that, but they will do it for a tattoo.
Sure. Yeah, more people will spend a significant amount of their extra income on tattoos than they would art.
Right.
You can walk around with it.
Yeah. And it's got its own little
personal
magical armor or healing or look there's so much to it.
Sure.
But it has a lot of that. Yeah, I think that's an interesting aspect of contemporary collectors, is that I don't see a lot of them partaking in purchasing original high quality work.
Do you think that's because if they're getting large scale tattoos, they're paying per session, so the money coming out is not as harsh?
I mean, maybe some of it. Yeah. I mean, some of it is, and some of it is, I think it's culturally so popular now that the cultural pull to get tattooed it's just so strong, I think, for so many people. It's so attractive in so many different ways, and the idea now more than ever that you can choose things about who you are in your body and identity, and I think a lot of those tie into that, and I don't know exactly what else. I haven't thought about it a ton, but I think a lot of those things really add up to why we're seeing that compared to, a run on, $5,000 to $10,000 paintings from the local artists.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess in my upbringing, art wasn't something that was around.
So it wasn't important.
Not at all.
Right.
I was interested in drawing superheroes, which doesn't really have anything to do with fine art. But the thought of purchasing anything over a couple $100 was never a thought until I really fell into loving painting, even though I was an artist.
Really?
I called myself an artist, my whole life, but I never thought about buying artwork because I didn't have any money.
Right. Yeah.
I bought art books.
Right.
And that's how I could facilitate seeing more than one image. As pre-internet.
I think I didn't really have much money either in the beginning, and I think that for some reason though there was something that keyed me into the desire to own a piece from original person, because I felt like it would, I don't know, some kind of like cosmically pass on some kind of inspiration of being in proximity to the thing that was physically created, was in their possession, that they've touched and screamed at or whatever.
Yeah.
And I remember just not having enough money to purchase a couple like key pieces in the mid to late 90s from people now that I'm like, you should have just, it doesn't matter. Why didn't you just, go like, you know what, I'll just eat soup for a month.
Yeah.
And then I'll worry about it later. I'll figure it out. Of course it would have worked out. But at the time it was just like, I've never spent that much money on anything in my life except for a car.
Yep.
And it was only like, that thing was only like, at the time, I think that thing, the painting that I was going to buy was, literally maybe a couple $1,000s less than the cars that I had bought at the time.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So I was like, I don't know. How do I get my head on vacation? I was like, how do I get my head around spending that much money? I was like, it feels so weird, and it feels so like scary, and it feels so irresponsible.
Sure.
It felt very irresponsible.
Well, what does your life look like? Do you have children? Do you have other responsibilities?
Right. I had none, right? I'm just like some selfish dickhead making tats. Fucking.
I think once I started really selling art, I felt like it was important to purchase art because I'm giving back to I'm keeping that cycle going.
100%. That's exactly how I feel about it.
And I've continued to do that. Like if I sell a bit of art, I buy art.
I do too.
And then I feel like it's just keeping that cycle going and keeping us all.
Yeah, I always feel like I always want to. I feel like it's goodwill. Like it's almost like karmic or something. Like if you have the means, you should support the people who are your peers because it's the right thing to do.
Totally.
Even if you don't end up having, you have some bad luck and don't sell shit. If you have the means, like you should be supporting the people that you can. I mean, that are kind of who you are.
Totally.
Right? They're just a different version of who you are, basically.
So, the other fortunate thing about being a productive painter is we have our peers that are also that way, and we get to trade with each other.
Ah, yeah, that's great. Yeah, I mean, you have a ton of really great work from other people like Dotsky and Kopinski and stuff that I saw in there, Henry, and really great stuff. That's another interesting, strange, different aspect about me focusing so much on tattooing. I'm so tattoo driven, and you don't have that little thing necessarily that you can like ship to your buddy.
Right.
You can't be like, hey, I'll just trade you that thing, or like, oh, this thing's cool and that person really loved it, I'll just send it to them.
Yep.
You're like, well, I can't send you a tat.
Yep.
So yeah, it's a different kind of thing. Even though obviously you can gift tats, but you have to be in.
You got to be right next to that person.
Yeah. So it's a different way to share and exchange.